Okay, so you've done it, you've put in the hours, you've reached that C1 level in English, and seriously, that is a huge accomplishment. So, congratulations.
It really is a major milestone.
But now what? You know you're good, like really good. But sometimes maybe it feels like there's this invisible wall, yeah,
Hmm.
between being very good and sounding, well, truly exceptional. That effortless, almost native-like quality.
That's such a common feeling at this level. Absolutely. That sense of hitting a plateau, right, when you feel like you're on the verge of something bigger.
Exactly. So today we're doing a deep dive just for you, the advanced C1 learner. For those of you ready to really get into the nuances, refine those skills way beyond the basics.
Yeah, our mission today is basically to pull out the most transformative insights we found, things that will genuinely help you break through that plateau and make a real leap forward.
We've been digging into some fantastic source material, a really practical, actionable guide specifically for C1 learners.
It's really good stuff. We've sort of boiled it down, distilled the core wisdom from it, just to bring you what we think matters most.
And what we found covers so many vital areas, doesn't it? Things like mastering spontaneous conversation, really building depth in your vocabulary.
Fine-tuning your fluency, navigating those trickier grammar points, diversifying your reading and writing.
And even getting a handle on those subtle cultural nuances. It sounds like a lot, maybe, but we've tried to break it down into, actionable steps.
Definitely. Maybe we should start with conversation, because that's often where that C1 wall feels, well, the highest. You've probably nailed all those textbook dialogues by now. Ordering coffee, talking hobbies, that stuff's down pat.
Right. Easy peasy. But what about real life? Those unpredictable conversations, the messy ones, where you can't just whip out a perfectly rehearsed phrase, the ones where you really have to think on your feet.
That's the absolute crux of it, isn't it? Our research really hammered home the need to practice specifically for those situations, like a job interview where they throw you a complete curveball question.
Or debate, yeah, where you need to build an argument right there and then.
Or even just, everyday chats that jump all over the place, or a negotiation where every single word really counts. It's about handling those unexpected twists gracefully.
Yeah, being adaptable.
Precisely. And one scenario that really highlights this is the ethical dilemma at work. The source material gave this great example, a conversation between, let's call them Alex and Maria. Alex is suggesting maybe bending the truth just a little bit for the company's sake, a classic gray area.
Oh, yeah, tricky situation.
Hmm.
And Maria's response, it's just a masterclass in nuance, isn't it? She says something like, that's a tough call. I believe in transparency, but in competitive markets. Well, some might argue it's strategic, not deceptive. It's so nuanced.
See, what's brilliant there is her ability to see the complexity, to acknowledge it without jumping straight to taking a side. She lays out both perspectives thoughtfully. That's exactly the kind of conversational sophistication we're talking about at C1.
And it's not just what she says, it's how she says it. The material pulled out some really useful advanced phrases from that chat, like, that's a gray area. Straight away it signals, okay, this isn't simple.
Or, I see where you're coming from. That shows you're listening, you understand their point, even if you don't fully agree. It builds rapport.
Definitely. And then there are phrases for managing the flow, like let's agree to disagree. Such a diplomatic way to just move past something you're stuck on.
Or showing empathy, like if I were in your shoes. It shows you're really considering their perspective. These aren't just like filler phrases, they're tools. Tools for navigating tricky social dynamics.
That's the key point, right? It's not about rote memorization. It's about understanding how these phrases function in a real conversation, how they help you sound more human, less like you're reading from a script, and properly engaged.
Exactly. They let you react genuinely, in the moment.
Okay, so how do we actually start using this kind of language more? What's a practical step someone listening can take?
Well, one really powerful suggestion from our analysis is to record yourself. Pick different prompts, ethical dilemmas like that one, current events, even just random social questions, and just talk. Then, and this is important, listen back critically.
Critically,
Right.
Not just listening, but analyzing. Where did I hesitate? Could I have been clearer? Or maybe more subtle? Did I miss a chance to use one of those advanced phrases we talked about?
Exactly that. And there are some great tools out there to help with this. Things like VoiceThread or SpeakPipe. They can give you some really objective feedback on your spontaneous speaking. Worth checking out.
Good tip. Okay, so moving on from conversation, let's talk vocabulary. Now, if you're at C1, You probably already have a pretty broad vocabulary, but it's more about depth now, isn't it?
It really is. It's about understanding the subtle differences between words, the nuances, and then weaving them naturally into how you speak. Our research really stresses learning words in context. Forget those endless isolated lists.
Yeah, those lists, they only get you so far. What you really need is to grasp how words actually behave out there in the real world, the company they keep, so to speak.
Which brings us neatly to collocations, right? Those words that just sound right together. Like you say, strong coffee, not usually powerful coffee.
Right, or bitter disappointment, not sour disappointment. Doesn't sound right.
Exactly. Those little natural pairings make a huge difference in sounding authentic.
And then you've got idioms. Oh boy, those colorful phrases that make zero literal sense, like kick the bucket or spill the beans. They can be tough, but they add so much personality.
They really do. And we also can't forget connotations, the sort of emotional flavor a word carries. Think about cheap versus inexpensive.
Yeah. Both about cost, but cheap often feels negative, like low quality, whereas inexpensive is more neutral, maybe even positive. Understanding those shades is key.
It's crucial. So, okay, practically speaking, how do you build this deeper, more natural vocabulary bank?
Good question. What did the research suggest?
A really effective strategy we found is creating thematic vocabulary clusters. So instead of random words, you group words around a central theme. You're basically building these mental maps. Take business and innovation as an example.
Okay.
You might cluster words like disruptive innovation, scalable model, market saturation, profit margin, competitive edge. See how they all relate?
Yeah, it's like creating a little toolkit for talking about that specific topic. I like that.
Exactly. And the real power isn't just listing them, it's understanding how they work in action. So disruptive innovation, you think of something like Uber, right? A new tech that completely changed the whole taxi market.
Okay, that makes it stick. You're not just learning a definition, you're connecting it to a real-world example. Much more memorable.
Precisely. Or scalable. Think of an app that's designed so it can handle millions of users without crashing. That's a scalable model. This kind of contextual understanding, that's what gives you the confidence to actually use these words naturally yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Makes total sense. Okay, so we've got conversation, vocabulary. Let's pivot to fluency. That sort of magical quality, isn't it? Where someone just sounds so effortless, so natural when they speak.
Yeah, that gliding feeling, like the language just flows.
Yeah.
And one really brilliant technique we came across for developing this is shadowing.
Shadowing, right? That's where you listen to a native speaker, maybe on a podcast or a news report, and you literally try to repeat what they're saying, either right along with them or just a split second behind.
Exactly. And it's incredibly powerful because you're not just copying the words, you're actively mimicking the pronunciation, their intonation, the melody of their voice.
The rhythm, the pauses.
Even sentence stress, how they emphasize certain words to convey meaning. It's holistic.
It's almost like learning the music of the language, not just the notes.
That's a great way to put it. And for finding good material to shadow challenging, authentic stuff, not simplified. Our research suggested some great sources, like The Daily from the New York Times for current events, Hardcore History for really immersive storytelling. Dan Carlin's amazing.
Oh yeah, he's intense.
And maybe Freakonomics for thought-provoking discussions. These aren't easy listening, but they're gold mines for shadowing complex, natural English.
They definitely push you beyond your comfort zone. And while we're on pronunciation, what are some of the sort of final hurdles C1 learners often need to clear?
Well, 3 big ones often come up. Connected speech, intonation, and sentence stress. Connected speech is all about how words naturally flow together, often changing sounds like going to becoming gonna.
Or what do you want to do, turning into something like what do you want to do?
Exactly. Mastering that makes a massive difference, both for understanding fast speech and for sounding more natural yourself.
Yeah, it's crucial for flow. And intonation, you mentioned that, the melody, that adds so much meaning, doesn't it? Emotion, attitude.
It really is the music, giving life to the words. And sentence stress is related, emphasizing the key information in a sentence so the listener gets the main point.
So are there any helpful tools for working on these specific pronunciation points?
Oh, definitely. Forvo is brilliant for just hearing how words are pronounced by native speakers, often in different accents, too.
Useful.
Youglish is fantastic because it searches YouTube and finds videos where your target word or phrase is used in context. You hear it in real, natural speech.
Oh, that's clever.
And then there are apps like Elsa Speak, which actually listen to you and give personalized feedback on your pronunciation, focusing on specific sounds or intonation patterns.
Wow, technology really helps target those subtle areas. Okay, great. So that's conversation, vocab, fluency, pronunciation. Let's tackle grammar. And please reassure everyone, this isn't about memorizing like endless verb conjugation tables again.
No, definitely not at this level, thank goodness. Here, it's really about mastering what our insights called subtle structures. These are the more complex grammatical forms that let you express really nuanced meanings, add sophistication, add style.
Okay, so we're way past simple past versus present perfect here. Give me an example of one of these subtle structures.
Well, our analysis highlighted things like mixed conditionals. These are super useful for talking about hypothetical situations that link different time frames. For instance, if I had taken the job past unreal condition, I would be living in New York now, present unreal result.
Ah, right. It connects a past possibility to a present outcome. Very precise.
Exactly. Then there's inversion for emphasis. This is where you flip the normal word order to make a statement sound more, well, emphatic or dramatic. Like instead of I have never seen, you say, never have I seen such an incredible performance.
Ooh, I like that. Adds a bit of flair.
It does. And then there are cleft sentences. Sounds complicated, but they're just a way to focus attention on one specific part of a sentence. Like, it was the manager who approved the budget instead of just the manager approved the budget. It suddenly shifts the emphasis.
Right, highlighting a key piece of information. I can see how that adds finesse.
And one more, nominalization. This is basically turning verbs or adjectives into nouns. It sounds a bit academic, but it's really common in formal writing and speaking business, academic stuff. It makes your language more concise and often sounds more formal.
Okay, give me an example of nominalization.
Sure. Instead of saying, they decided to postpone the launch and this surprised everyone, you could nominalize it. The decision to postpone the launch surprised everyone. Using the noun decision makes it tighter, more formal.
Ah, I see. More economical with words. So mastering these structures, it really just expands your toolkit, doesn't it? Gives you more ways to say exactly what you mean with precision and a bit of style.
That's exactly it. They elevate your communication beyond the basics.
Okay, from grammar, let's talk reading. Now, I'm sure if you're at C1, you're already reading a fair bit in English, but maybe it's less about quantity now and more about what you read and how you read it.
Precisely. The research strongly advised diversifying your reading diet, so to speak. Don't just read the same kind of stuff all the time. Mix it up. Try academic journals, opinion pieces in newspapers, different genres of fiction, biographies.
Even things like legal texts or business reports.
Yeah, the goal is exposure. Exposure to all the different ways the language is used, different styles, different registers, different vocabulary sets.
Makes sense. And it's not just what you read, you said, but how.
Right. We found a really good 4-step active reading strategy. This isn't just letting your eyes glide over the page.
Okay, lay it on me. What are the steps?
Step 1, skim the text first just to get the main ideas, the overall gist. Step 2, if you need specific details, scan for that particular information. Step 3, this is key highlight and define any new words you find, but make sure you understand them in the context they're used.
Crucial for that vocabulary building we talked about. And step 4.
Summarize each paragraph or maybe each section in your own words. This really forces you to check if you've understood it properly. It's about actively engaging, not just passively consuming.
Right, truly active reading. Got it. And to help people find some good, challenging material for this, any specific recommendations?
Yeah, a few came up. For really sophisticated language and big ideas, Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari is fantastic.
Heard great things about that one.
For really sharp, in-depth analysis of current affairs and economics, articles from The Economist are top tier.
Good call.
And for just beautiful, nuanced writing and essays on a huge range of topics, The New Yorker is hard to beat.
Excellent suggestions. Okay, let's move to the flip side, writing. I know this can be a challenge for many, but at C1, it's really about refining your style, isn't it?
Yeah.
Making your writing clearer, more impactful, moving beyond just getting the grammar right.
Absolutely. And the core advice here, the main takeaway from our research, was actually pretty simple but really profound. Edit ruthlessly.
Ruthlessly. Sounds harsh. Tell me more.
Well, maybe critically is a better word. But yeah, don't be precious about your first draft. Be prepared to cut things, rewrite sentences, move paragraphs around. You need to be your own toughest critic. That's where the real polishing happens.
Okay, so become a sharp editor of your own work. Any specific techniques to focus on during this ruthless editing phase?
Definitely. Check for sentence variety. Are you using a good mix of short and long sentences, simple and complex ones? It makes your writing much more engaging.
Good point. Avoid sounding monotonous.
Ensure your tone fits your audience and purpose. Are you aiming for formal, informal, persuasive, informative? Getting the tone right is crucial.
Makes a huge difference to how it's received.
Absolutely. Also, look at your topic sentences. Does each paragraph start with a strong, clear sentence that signals what it's about? And finally, linking words and phrases, things like consequently, nonetheless, in contrast, furthermore. Use them effectively to connect your ideas smoothly and logically.
Right, create that flow between ideas. To really illustrate this, the material had a great before and after example, didn't it? The before was pretty basic. Something like, many people think social media is bad. Makes people feel sad. They compare themselves a lot.
Yeah, very choppy, kind of repetitive. Simple sentences. Now compare that to the edited after version. Social media can negatively impact mental health by encouraging constant comparison, which often leads to feelings of inadequacy and anxiety.
Wow. Okay, yeah, so much clearer, more concise, uses better vocabulary like negatively impact, inadequacy, and a more complex sentence structure with that which clause. That really shows the power of editing.
It really does.
Yeah.
Huge difference. Now, let's tackle what might be the trickiest part of all for many C1 learners: cultural fluency, especially understanding and using idiomatic language.
Ah, yes, the final frontier, perhaps. This is where even very advanced learners might still feel they don't quite sound native, because it's about all those subtle cultural references, the idioms, the jokes, the sarcasm, maybe even proverbs. These can be really hard to pick up unless you're fully immersed.
Absolutely. They often don't translate logically. Our research gave a couple of good examples with clear explanations, like the idiom bite the bullet.
Oh yeah, I know that one. It means you have to do something unpleasant or difficult, but you know it's necessary, right? It's like, I really didn't want to go to the dentist, but I just had to bite the bullet.
Exactly that. Perfect example. And another common one. The ball is in your court.
Meaning it's now your turn to make a move, make a decision, or take action. Like, okay, I've made my offer, the ball is in your court now.
Precisely. Getting comfortable understanding these and maybe even carefully starting to use them yourself adds this incredible layer of authenticity. It just makes your English sound so much more natural and fluent.
It's like adding the final polish, isn't it? The little details that make a big difference.
Exactly. It's like that final seasoning that makes the dish perfect.
Okay, wow. We have covered a lot of ground today. Conversation strategies, vocabulary depth, fluency techniques, subtle grammar, active reading, ruthless writing, cultural fluency. It's quite a bit to take in.
It is, but what's really great and quite empowering, I think, is that our source material also managed to condense a lot of this into a practical daily routine, something people can actually follow.
A daily routine. Okay, that sounds useful. Tell me more. How does that work?
Well, it's basically a suggested schedule breaking down different activities. For instance, it might suggest spending, say, 15 minutes each day reading a news article aloud, maybe from the BBC or the Guardian website. Good for pronunciation and fluency.
Okay, 15 minutes reading aloud. What else?
Then maybe 10 minutes working on your vocabulary notebook, perhaps using a tool like Quizlet or Notion to review those thematic clusters we talked about.
I like those tools for organizing notes. Keeps everything tidy.
Then maybe 20 minutes doing some shadowing. Pick one of those podcasts we mentioned, The Daily, Freakonomics, and shadow along on Spotify or Audible.
So, focused practice on that natural rhythm and intonation.
Exactly. Then perhaps 15 minutes of writing, maybe keeping a journal in English, and using a tool like Grammarly or the Hemingway app to help you with that ruthless editing afterwards.
Good idea. Get feedback as you go.
And crucially, 15 minutes actually speaking English, maybe connecting with someone on a language exchange app like HelloTalk or Tandem, just having a real conversation.
So it's like a well-rounded daily workout for all the different English skills, active and varied.
That's exactly the idea, and the core message behind it is simple: consistency. Even these relatively small daily workouts done consistently add up and make a huge difference over time.
Absolutely. Small steps, big results. So as we start to wrap up this deep dive, I think the big takeaway is that reaching C1, as amazing as it is, isn't really the end point. It's more like a new beginning.
That's a great way to think about it. It's like climbing one big mountain, and when you get to the top, you suddenly see this whole incredible range of peaks stretching out ahead of